You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Howdy do.
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 44, or Hank Aaron, the number he wore. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, and Stitcher. And you can find us pretty much everywhere podcasts are sold. Batteries not included.
Never included.
Never.
Made in China. And it's funny, I was sitting down with my daughter the other night, and she's like, Daddy, why is everything made in China? I'm like, sweetheart, I don't know. And so she started going through everything on her bed. Every stuffed animal, every pillow, even the blanket. All made in China.
Wow. Good stuffed animal business they've got there?
Apparently, they've got the market on stuffed animals. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, Steve, how is your Chinese imported week treating you?
Konnichiwa.
That's Japanese.
Look at Rosetta Stone. Okay, I don't need to be corrected about my French from everybody. It was good. It was a good week. Took my son camping on Friday. We've had a bit of a heat wave. I know that you had a summer worth of heat waves, but these last few days have been like in the 90s here in Chicago.
Wow.
And it is, almost October, which I don't know what that means for the winter, if it's going to be like Snowmageddon, like, 20 feet of snow or something. But yeah, it's usually not this hot in October.
So let me ask you this. When Snowmageddon arrives, does Bruce Willis have to devise a plan to save everyone in Chicago from Snowmageddon?
Absolutely. And it involves getting on the snow and drilling through to the core of the earth and exploding in half. I don't know.
Nukes.
Yeah. As long as Liv Tyler's in it, I'm watching. So anyway, we took him camping, and it was awesome because it was like one of the nicest nights of camping. The day was hot, but Friday night, it turned out to be like 68, 70 degrees sleeping. So it was like you had the rain fly off. It was beautiful stars. And
wow.
We actually slept at a firing range, not on a firing range, but at a firing range. And so
gotcha.
We got up the next morning and blindfolded each other, smoked a cigarette, and then they executed. No, I'm kidding. No, it was actually a shooting. It was a shooting gallery. And so we got up, had breakfast, and then 9, 12 to 14-year-old boys went over across the road, and we shot guns for a few hours, which was a lot of fun. You'd think it'd be quite dangerous, having children with guns, but this is the 20th century, folks. So don't be such a closed-minded.
The funny thing is about that, because I remember shooting rifles at like a scout camp at 12, and there's plenty of adults usually on staff there, and they teach you and they train you how to keep your rifle pointed down range, and all the rules, and it's surprising how early kids can understand and follow those type of rules and understand the true danger that could be presented if they point a gun in a direction that's not safe.
Yeah. And I will, on that point, I was very impressed. They all followed the rules. They all got it, and you think 12 years old is kind of young, but yeah, they understand, and they took the responsibility very seriously. And it was kind of cool because the range is one where they have a bunch of metal targets, all different sizes, kind of almost like plates of metal.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're hanging and whatever, and they have some trees, kind of these poles that have swivel arms where you shoot it, and if you hit it, it'll swing the arm over to the other side, and you can hit it back and forth. It's almost like a little penny arcade so the whole day, all you heard was ding, doom, dee, boom, boom, dee, doom, dee, doom, boom, doom, dee, doom. I'm like, if they just put a big gong way in the back, you could hit that one and be like, bang. Kind of cool.
That'd be awesome.
And then we got home that day and went to the beach. Lake Michigan is just gorgeous, man. It's and it's cool because the beach is officially closed, so there's no lifeguards, but it's free. So you go there and there's just tons of people there, and the water was frigid, but the kids loved it anyway. And yeah, just had a good weekend, and the weather was nice, and as always, it is good to be back. How was your week?
That's awesome. My week was good. I just want to say real quick, like I'm planning on, being out in Chicago at the end of October for my reunion, and we're making plans for that. And Addison's been texting me, and we're trying to get together and arrange some time to hang out.
Do you have any plans for me in there? Or is it pretty much just Addison? You and Addison just chilling.
Yeah. Are you my real uncle? Yes, I am.
They actually did say that. They said, when is Uncle Spencer coming? I'm like, excellent. I've indoctrinated them.
So anyway, we've been planning on that and arranging for Breda's parents to come and stay with the boys while we come out for that weekend, because realistically, I don't want to fly the boys out there. They're too young to get anything of what's going to be going on and what mommy and daddy are going to be doing. And let's be honest, mommy and daddy need a break every now and again, and a couple days without having a mommy, daddy, 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 daddy. What? I need to go potty. Okay, just go. Oh, okay. It's like, what? Why? Why did you put me through that for 20 minutes of saying my name?
Sounds like it's been a tough week.
It's just one of those. They're at those ages, right, where everyone says it's the terrible twos. I'm like, it's the threes and it's the fours as well.
11-2. Wait for that one.
Yeah, it's a bit different though, right? I'm hoping. Daddy. Go
to the bathroom already.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Carter, just get it done. Yeah, so Jackson, so potty training with Jackson, right? He's getting better. Like he went 8.5 days and then he finally had an accident. And I think he hasn't had an accident since that one accident, which has been now another 4 days in a row or something. And
well done.
He's doing well, and he's starting to try to go potty on the big potty instead of the little kid potty that you've got to manually
clean
empty
out every time.
Oh yes. Oh man.
Like a bedpan.
Yes, that's exactly right. I'm like, this is how my life's gonna be when they're older. I know it. Or maybe that's how their life will be, but I'll be the one using the bedpan. I don't know. Who knows? Payback, boys.
That's right.
Not to get all disgusting, but I'm just saying it's nice that we're starting to put him on the big potty now on a normal toilet, and trying to get him to figure that out and sit there and it's like, and we were commenting, that he kind of has the shakes, right? When you first put a kid on the big potty and let's be honest, their little bum is smaller than the opening.
Oh yeah.
If they slip, they're going in.
They're going to be eaten by the toilet.
So yeah, he sits on it and he has to put his hands down to try to help brace and hold himself up. And you watch, and the longer he sits there, his arms start to shake and shiver, and he's just not strong enough to hold himself up.
What is he doing? Toilet dips?
1 and
this is a real workout of the triceps, Dad.
You know what I'm saying? They just they don't have that strength, and so he's doing that, and my wife says, well, maybe we go get one of those double seats, right? That you got the fold down for the kid and then the normal one. I was
my grandma used?
Right, that's what I keep thinking. I was like, I'm open to the idea, but let's just have the boy do it this way. I mean, Charlie eventually got strong, and now Charlie can go sit on that thing all day, and he's not going to fall in. He just holds himself there.
And he does, like father, like son. What?
What are you talking about, man?
And don't you worry though, because my youngest still kind of does that
about them falling in.
When you holding out of the seat. Oh. But when you go to a public restroom and she's all latched on, I'm like, don't touch that. Do you know how many rears that are not our families have sat on that thing?
No, I don't really worry about that.
Wow, okay.
So much.
Sick monkey.
I always have them wash their hands thoroughly afterwards.
We just lick the palms. I don't know.
Yeah, lick the palms before they sit down, so they slip off and then go in. Zing! Yeah. Anyway, wow, that really
it's been a good week.
That went in the toilet very fast.
Yeah, right.
So, let's see. I went to the dentist this week. Now, I'm a 38-year-old man, and I should have not. I shouldn't have not. Who am I, Yoda? I have not. I should not have the fear of going to the dentist that I do. But I know that every time I go to the dentist, my genetics aren't going to serve me well, and I'm going to have work that needs to be done. So I went in, they had it looked at, and they were like, okay, well, you need to have the 2 crowns that you knew about, because I had 2 teeth that broke a while back ago, and they did a root canal and just kind of did like a temporary filling, like a buildup or whatever they call it.
Yep.
And I've put those crowns off for a couple of years, to be honest.
So like 4?
Probably. So, yeah, actually, it's probably 3.5 or more, because we did it when we lived down in Bountiful before we bought the house and moved in, and that was 3 days before Jackson was born, and he's 3.5. So, yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, it's been a while. And then I had a filling that broke a little while ago that I wanted to get fixed. And that filling, where it broke, like it pulled a little piece of the tooth out too. So like the cavity was deep enough that they had to do a root canal and a crown on that. And then 4 of my previous fillings had the x-ray showed a little bit of decay that had gotten underneath the filling. So they had to take the fillings out, clean it up a little bit, and then redo the filling. So I had...
Is this like an outpatient thing, or do they have to keep you overnight?
I was there for 4 hours in the chair, and I had 2 crowns put in, a root canal and a crown, and 4 fillings.
Gosh. $5,000 later.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, after insurance, it was about $2,000. I got a 10% discount because I showed up like a day and a half after my initial thing because they had an opening, and they're like, I know this is close, but if you can come in at that time, I'll give you a 10% discount. I was like, done. So
I'd have gone for 20.
Yeah, I was like, make it 25 and we're in. But I needed to get this stuff done, and we had some money saved up in an HSA for a rainy day sort of medical thing. And, I was like, well, I need this work done, and I don't want to put it off anymore, so let's just have it done. And so, in 6 months, I get to go back in for another cleaning and a follow-up, and if past track record is anything to go by, I'll see them again in 4 years.
That's right.
I'm just
cool.
teasing. But let's see. So that's going on. I have been playing the mess out of Destiny 2. Like, I've just every free moment that I possibly can get on and play, I've been playing that. Just having a good time and playing with a bunch of people online and having a lot of fun. What else? I'm still watching the Iron Fist. I'm almost done with that season, and then I can get to the Defenders, which is the team up of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Iron Fist. And that's it. I did have an interesting thing happen. Do you ever, Steve, have these moments where, as an adult, you start to realize like the number of people that you hang out with, like the number of friends you have as like an adult friends, like maybe you get together with and you go out to dinner and a movie or have over to play, board games or, do like backyard barbecues with them and their kids and you and your kids or whatever. Like that number seems to get smaller as I've gotten older. Like I have people I'm friends with and like I have friends that I've known forever, but like, we moved up into this area 3.5 years ago. And so, like, we don't have, like, a lot of, like, really close friends just, like, right around here. Not yet, at least.
Yeah, this podcast is the only outlet I have, really. It's this and work. That's really what it is.
And which goes to speak. I mean, we've known each other for over 30 years. So I said, like, your friends that you have, you end up holding on to, right?
Right.
So anyway, we've met some people in our neighborhood recently that... Like my wife and this other lady, her name is Emily, like they get along really, really well. They have a lot of similar shared interests and lo and behold, her husband, this lady's husband, Emily's husband, Steve and I have a lot of similar interests. We both ride motorcycles. We're into Star Wars and nerdy stuff and board games and video games, things like that. He's into like RC cars and,
oh, nice.
And, so anyway, like, we may try to organize something to do with them recently, and there's some other neighbors just like right down around the around the corner from us. Their names are Drew and Emily. And my wife gets along with that Emily as well. And I get along with Drew. I work with him in the Young Men's doing the Boy Scouts. And then we've got some other friends we've just kind of made named Nicole and Rob. And so like all this has kind of been happening recently. And I'm realizing like we're actually being social and getting out and like trying to like meet people again now that we've been up in this area for like 3.5 years. It's like, okay, we need to stop making our lives just about our children again and try to, make some friends in the new area and have people we can do stuff with. So, it's kind of weird though. I mean, I'm approaching 40 and it's like making new friends. I don't know. It seems like it's more effort than it used to be. Well, it's not, I mean, a little bit of that, right? But like, it just seems like as you get older, like making friends just doesn't seem as easy as it used to be. It's like when you were a kid, like when you're a kid, like you end up like being on the same soccer team or, playing in a neighborhood game of pickup kickball and, one kid gets tackled, and the other kid, gets slightly hurt or something happens and like there's a little scuffle and then next thing you know, those two are best friends and they're that way for the rest of their lives, right?
Right.
But like you don't just randomly like bump into people now when you're established and you've got a career and kids and a home and just like randomly like tussle in the front yard or something and then you're like, now we're best friends. I mean, maybe some people do.
Tussling in the front yard, you're like, get some popcorn, boys.
We're gonna have some feats of strength, and after that, we'll be friends.
That's right. No, it is. It's. I find it hard as an adult to, first of all, make the time, and then secondly, to branch out and meet people. It's like, where do you, besides a church, I guess, or neighbors, I guess, but...
The other thing is, I wonder, because I've heard this from other parents, like once you start putting your kids like in soccer or baseball or tumbling or swimming classes, like you end up start going to like a lot of the same things as adults of other kids that are kind of partnered up with your kids. And so like you end up like running in the same circles as a lot of people. And so like you maybe not necessarily friends, but you're like, oh, hey, it's that one guy that I always see at the backyard barbecues over at this guy's house whose daughter and my daughter go to the same swimming lesson with this next door neighbor's son. And so like you kind of see the same faces, but maybe you don't learn their names. It's like, hey, guy, how's it going? You still doing that thing? Awesome.
Yeah, that's always like the awkward thing though, because like you're not really friends, you just know each other, and you're just like, hey, yeah, and like you have these awkward little kind of like high level conversations, and but it never goes beyond that. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. What are you doing? Oh, I'm a producer. What do you produce? I produce. That's what I do. You're like, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Remind me to not talk to you next time I see you. Thanks.
Weird guy. You're weird guys.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that you're branching out and making new friends and no tussles in the backyard, and that's good.
Not yet. I mean, maybe. Who knows? Who knows what could happen?
Like, Adam, let's go outside and tussle. He's like, I knew this was going to get weird. Sweetheart, let's go.
It's always true, too, but like the other thing is, like, so there's this side, too. Like, Breeda will say, hey, we should invite people over, and, we'll have like a game night. And I'm like, really? Is a game night the way we want to go with this? I'm like, maybe let's just do like a couple dinners first and maybe like, something else. And she's like, why? Yeah. I'm like, because I'm super competitive and I don't want to win. I want to crush people's souls. And that's not really conducive environment to making friends.
And it's also like, if you don't like them, like you've committed to a very interactive, very like hands-on few hours with them, where it's like, if it's a movie, you can kind of talk before and after the movie and kind of get away with very minimal conversation. A dinner, at least you have the food. But a game, it's like, we're in this together, whether we like each other or not.
For the next 7 hours, because risk never ends.
Yeah, that's probably not the first game you want to start with.
Here's Axis and Allies. It'll take us 3 days.
I didn't like you on hour 1.
Right. 72 hours in, nothing's changed.
Very cool.
Anyway, good week. Everything's going well, and the old Stapleton household, and just plugging along. Oh, we bought shoes tonight. Get that. We took the kids over to Target to buy them shoes, and Mommy starts looking at like the reasonable shoes, the normal type shoes, and Daddy immediately goes for the shoes that light up when you walk and make noises. I'm like, oh, Charlie, look, here's Darth Vader and Stormtrooper shoes. And so he looked at the Star Wars shoes and was all excited. And then, of course, Jackson wanted them. So do you think they came home with the reasonable shoes or the ones that light up and make Star Wars noises?
The latter.
Yep, exactly right. And I'm a great father. I'm like, this is going to blink and annoy everyone every single time you walk. But
what does it say? Does it like have hope or what kind of a...
I don't know. I actually don't know if they make noise. I do know they light up. But if they did make noise and they did the Darth Vader breathing every time you took a step, that'd be cool.
You're like, son, do you have a squeaky shoe?
Except you know how fast those kids walk? You'd be like,
Darth is hyperventilating.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, he's having a heart attack.
Give me a CPAP. Stat.
Yeah, but anyway, all is well and right with the world here.
Well, cool. Well, let's get right into it then, man. Let's not waste any time. Let's not beat around the bush.
Reggie Bush? He's a football player. Never mind. All right, let's get to Rebel Intelligence, my favorite part of the podcast and yours. What do you say?
Yeehaw!
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Steve, Rebel Intelligence, what do you have for me this week?
All right, this week was a fun-filled week of nonsensical doodads and hullabaloo with some tomfoolery peppered in. So I wanted to start with a reboot that I saw. You probably saw this as well.
Just came out. Reboot.
There you go, a little Max Headroom for you. The Tomb Raider movie is getting a 2018 reboot of the story.
Right.
Angelina Jolie is not coming back as Lara Croft, and in fact, it is going to be played by a newcomer to the screen, Alicia Vikander, I think.
Yeah, I
Vicodin?
think so.
Vicodin? I don't know what it is. Anyway, so...
Alicia Vicodin.
Put you right to sleep and kill you some pain on the way. So, but this is a story, almost an origin story of how she came to be. It's a story, if you watch the trailer, it's a few-minute trailer, that her father goes missing, and then she finds kind of his secret office lair beneath their home and finds out that there's some organization that is trying to take over the world, yada, 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 yada. So, I gotta be honest, because that's all I can be, is I was not very impressed with the trailer. I don't know how you felt about it, but I just kind of felt like, not that I loved Angelina Jolie's performance per se, aesthetically or otherwise, but I just felt like...
What's with that winking right there?
What?
That was some odd winking.
What? What are you talking about?
You were also pointing down. I don't know what that meant either.
In my eye. It was like there's a dust mite. And so it just was like a watered down version. It didn't seem like very action packed. She as a character didn't seem very dynamic. Very, I don't know. What did you think?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? There has been so many movies made after video games.
Right.
And so far,
let's name a few. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Super Mario Brothers,
Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed. I mean, yeah, there's been all sorts. I mean, there's even been like animated ones like the Halo movies, Duke Nukem, Jumanji. Hellboy. I know that's a board game in the first one, but they're going to do a second one. That was a comic book. But yeah, there's been lots of movies based on video games, and there hasn't been a really successful one yet. So is this one going to be the one that's going to flip the script and break the curse and do all that thing? Maybe. But here's the thing. Like, it looked. So I played the rebooted Tomb Raider game that came out a few years ago, and a lot of these, like, I don't think the story is going to be the exact same story from that game,
right?
But it's a lot of overtones and themes that are hit. Like, so you kind of see in the trailer where she's on this boat and she like wakes up or whatever, and like stuff's kind of crashing around. She's like, "Where is everyone?" And she looks, and like the boat's sinking, and she jumps off. And then you could tell, like, she lands at the beach, and they're like, you shouldn't have came here, and they knock her out. Like,
little pistol whip.
That's like very, 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 very similar to what happens in the rebooted Tomb Raider game from a few years ago. So like you kind of get the feeling like they're maybe different story, but trying to base some of that off of that game. And
they did try to take a lot of cues from the game. Yeah.
Yeah, the problem I had with that game was, like, I thought the gameplay was really good. I mean, it was tight mechanics. The shooting felt right. The bow and arrow felt amazing. The jumping and using the pickaxe all kind of felt good. But, like, for me, the story was kind of lacking in that video game. I know it's an unfair comparison, but, like, comparing it to Uncharted, those games kind of play the same, have a lot of similar mechanics. But the Uncharted games from Naughty Dog have excellent, excellent, excellent storytelling in them. And the gameplay, while is just as good as the storytelling, like it's like an even split. Whereas in the Tomb Raider game, for me, the gameplay was the highlight and the story was really a low point. And so, like, I look at this movie, this trailer, and I think, is this going to be enough action, or is this just going to be a lot of CGI stuff? Are we really going to care about this character at all? Because, to be honest, I don't think Lara Croft is a really relatable character as a whole. She's like this, British woman who comes from a lot of money, who ends up, investigating tombs and legends and histories and crypts, and she's got all these gadgets in the world, because she's got money, or she, depending on which game or which movie we're talking about.
You lost me at British. Sorry.
Angelina Jolie. Does that bring you back? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Whereas like the Uncharted games, the character Nathan Drake is, like a treasure hunter, treasure seeker, but like he doesn't have a ton of money. He's like an orphan, and he's, trying to go for the next big score to help, fund maybe another expedition somewhere, or to kind of just help him like pay the bills. And, he has a more rich story. Like he has characters that, interact with him throughout all the different games, and you see them when they come in, you're like, oh, hey, it's Sully, we really like Sully. I couldn't tell you a single character in a Tomb Raider game other than Lara Croft. Not saying people can't, but I just can't. So we'll see. I mean, this movie comes out. I mean, it doesn't look horrible. I mean, it looks better than like Prince of Persia, and I saw that movie in a drive-in double feature.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. I didn't see the Assassin's Creed movie. It just didn't look that great. I'd probably go see this Tomb Raider movie, or maybe I'd wait till it comes to Netflix, unless a new trailer comes out that looks a little stronger. Yeah. But you know what? If you haven't played the video games, and just an action adventure kind of summer blockbuster popcorn type of movie is what you're into, like, this might not be a bad thing, but time will tell.
Well, we will see. We will see.
So speaking of movies, I'm going to jump over something I am really excited about. Arnold Schwarzenegger says the next Terminator movie is basically going to ignore Terminator Genesis, which was the 5th movie in the franchise. That was the one where they basically kind of went back and retold the original story, but from like an alternate timeline. So like things were very similar but kind of different. And Arnold Schwarzenegger played he was in the movie. He basically played like the prototype for like the T-800 and the T-600. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, they're saying that this movie is going to be full on back. Sarah Connor's going to be back. They're not bringing back Robert Pattinson. They're not bringing back the T-1000, the liquid metal. But James Cameron's back. James Cameron's going to be, at the helm of this movie. And so obviously he did the first Terminator and he did Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And then he hasn't been a part of it for the third or fourth or fifth movie. So I'm really excited. I know James Cameron's sci-fi credits are really strong, and especially the creator of the Terminator series. So I'm excited.
Now, do you feel like with his return, with Schwarzenegger's return, and also with Linda Hamilton, I mean, do you think that that's kind of the trifecta that will kind of bring back some of the glory days of the Terminator franchise?
I think James Cameron's the big linchpin there, because you think about it, like, granted, those movies made Arnold's career, right? I mean, they made his career.
Oh yeah.
But at this point, like, I don't know that he necessarily has to be in them. But I think it just has to be a good story. Because, like, if you think about it, like, go back to the first Terminator movie. If Arnold wasn't the guy, the actor playing the Terminator, and it was Stallone at the time, or Bruce Willis, or Dolph Lundgren, or some other, like, big action star from the 80s, right? That movie still would be an excellent movie. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger's acting in it was supposed to be wooden and robotic and, not very nuanced. But the techno, the techno revolution and the idea that the machines are rising up to kill humanity, and they send a robot back through time to kill the leader of a resistance in the future. Like, just that story alone is a great story, some great storytelling. And they could have had any muscle-bound, actor at the time. Now, Terminator 2, obviously, Arnold had more acting to do, and, it was more nuanced than the first movie. So, I think you could do it without Arnold Schwarzenegger if the story was right. I don't think he has to be there. Same thing with Linda Hamilton. I don't think she has to be there. But having those two back, I don't think is going to detract from the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that too will be interesting. I think that, and I think that I saw, or I remember seeing somewhere where Cameron says that he actually wants to possibly do a whole new trilogy of Terminator movies aside from this one.
Really?
Trying to reinvent the franchise. So anyway, that's we could be in for a slew of new Terminator movies, and
if there's anyone to do it, it would be him.
I was going to say maybe Schwarzenegger will be back.
You never know.
Yeah,
I got you.
See what I did there?
I got you.
Okay.
No. What did you do there?
Wasn't lost on you. So, speaking of another movie, heroine Katherine Johnson from the wonderful movie that we reviewed some time ago, Hidden Figures. The real Katherine Johnson actually just got a building dedicated to her name, which I thought was really cool.
Woohoo!
A $23 million, 37,000 square foot data center named after Johnson, who broke the glass ceiling for black women in the space program, was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her work as a trailblazer in the space program. That was in 2015. Right. But here is my question. Now, of course, this woman who is now 99 years old, math genius, she said, when asked what she thought of this honor, she said, "You want my honest answer? I think they're crazy." As she said that at the ribbon cutting ceremony on September 22nd. But what I think is kind of sad about this, and maybe this is just coincidental, but like, why did it have to wait until, Margaret Shetterly, the author of the book that inspired then the Oscar-winning movie, why did it take the writing of the book and the making of the movie for then her to be honored for her work? Like, had the author not written the book, had the movie not been made, would she still be in a building dedicated to her honor?
Do you want me to tell you the honest truth?
No. I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I can lie to you and say, it was magic or something. I don't know. It was magic. No, the honest truth is this, Steve, is that we as human beings tend to have short memories. we tend to, I think, especially in today's culture and society, we tend to get caught up in our own lives and our own, doings and, what's hot at the moment, what's going on. And we tend to sometimes lose focus on the past and, the people that have, done things before us to blaze trails and to clear new paths and to give us some of the technology and some of the some of the conveniences that we have now. Like, do you know who invented the microwave?
Mr. Wave?
Mr. Wave, exactly.
Wavely?
Exactly, yes. Mr. Wave. Mr. Microwave. But that's my point. Like, that's something that we use every single day. Or, maybe you don't use it every single day in your home, but like if you go out and eat fast food, like they cook stuff, but then they put it back in the microwave to like kind of heat it up right before they get it to you, or, those sorts of things. So like we're quick to...
Percy Spencer.
What was that?
Percy Spencer. That's who invented the microwave. Sorry.
I did know it was a professor named Spencer, by the way.
He's generally credited with inventing the modern microwave from World War II, using radar technology.
But the point is, I think that I'm trying to make, maybe not succinctly here, but I think we tend to forget things. And so I think in the case of Katherine Johnson, someone, went back and did research and wrote the book, right? And it brought to light this, and people are like, oh, I didn't know this, or maybe I wasn't really interested in the space program. And so it gets a lot of attention, and then it gets picked up because it's a good book and a good story, and it's recognized that this could be a good movie and translate over well. And so it makes it into a big movie that makes a lot of money and brings a lot of awareness to this wonderful woman and her other compatriots that helped during the space race. And so I think that's why, when we shine a light on something from history and illuminate that and that individual or individuals, then we tend to focus on a little bit more and realize, oh, maybe we should be grateful for what we have, and maybe we should do something to honor that person. I think that's the honest answer as to why. Now, her response, though, I love, because I get the impression from her, watching the movie and reading the books and reading some things, interviews she's given, like she just looked at it as she was doing what was asked of her by her president and doing her job, and the idea that someone would then go and name a building after her because she did what she was asked to do and what she was paid to do just kind of seems a little ridiculous to her at this point in her life, which speaks to me a ton about her character. She didn't, wasn't doing it for glory. She wasn't trying to help out because she's like, one day I'm going to have a building named after me. No, she was just doing what was asked of her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that you are absolutely right as to why. I guess my broader point was it is sad that there are that it takes that. It's good that it has. I'm glad that she wrote the book. I enjoyed the movie. I think that she deserves the recognition. You think about all those many other people that have wonderful, maybe equally or even more inspiring stories, or people from civil rights history and things like that. Like if those stories were never told, if the people in power chose to kind of squelch any of those stories of sit-ins and of marches and of all the heroic things that were done, those stories never would have come to light. And you just think about how many stories like Katherine Johnson's haven't come to light, and it's it is a little sad that we obviously we can't remember all of them, but the unsung heroes, I guess, from history. But it is nice to know that she is recognized. I'm glad that again the book was written, and it is a remarkable story. And all of the I think there was a great quote from the author that said, and I will quote her because it's better than my saying it. It said that. It said, "Telling your story has been an honor," said Margaret Shetterly, the author of the book. "Your work changed our history, and your history has changed our future."
That's awesome. So, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, something else I got for you. Let's change gears a little bit. So, a movie came out a while ago called The Kingsman, and it was this really kind of, cool action movie, but it also kind of got gritty. And Colin Firth was in it. And in the end of that movie, Colin Firth's character gets killed. He gets shot in the face with a gun. Well, there's a trailer out for Kingsman 2: The Golden Circle, which is the follow-up to this movie.
I've seen it, yes.
And Colin Firth is in the trailer. And you realize from the character that the main character, I can't remember his name, is Bugsy, or I don't know, Bugsy. Let's call him Bugsy. That's probably not right, but something along those lines. In
Harry Hart?
Harry Hart's Colin Firth's character, but
I thought that's who you were referring to. Sorry.
No, but the other character is like Bugsy or Banksy or Bobsy or something. Anyway, he sees that the character's still alive, and he's like, "What?" And he's all kind of shocked by this. Okay, now here's the problem. The people that make movies, that direct movies, that edit the movies and put movies together are not the same people that market the movies. So the director of The Kingsman 2 is really, really annoyed right now with the marketing department and the marketing, whoever in management decided to clip the trailer in the way they did, because he says in the first third of the movie, the whole, this guy, this Hart guy being dead is kind of a main driving force for the story. And then when you get that big reveal that he's still alive, it's supposed to be a big impactful part of the storytelling experience watching the movie. Well, the marketing department has already spoiled that in the first trailer for the movie. And so I'm really interested, because of course the director says from now on, he's going to demand anything he directs. He's going to have a strong hand in the marketing, so this doesn't happen again. Right. I can't just imagine how difficult that would be to go on set and film a movie for 4 or 5 months and then spend the next 18 months in the editing bay, clipping your movie together and getting it just right and making sure that the dialogue is correct and that the pacing of the movie feels good, and taking all that time to do all that, post-production editing so that you can then deliver the movie. And then to have some guy in a suit in the marketing department say oh, well, people need to, let's show off Colin Firth because he's one of the bigger actors, and let's do that, and totally blow the storytelling for a movie. To me, that just seems ridiculous. He has crippled a big moment that would have been a good payoff to the viewer, but now it's not going to be that because everyone's already seen it.
Right. Well, and I think they mentioned in the article as well that you shared with me was that the same type of thing happened with Terminator 2. When the audience wasn't really supposed to know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a good guy.
Yep.
And there was a few trailers that showed that he was a good guy, but it was obviously supposed to kind of be a reveal during the movie to be oh my gosh, he's going to kill him.
Right.
Wait, he's here to help?
Yeah.
So
I tell you what, I feel the frustration from here, because that would just break my heart if I put in all that effort and all that time and that work, and then it gets spoiled. That's horrible. I feel bad.
Very good. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was from the Avenger MCU universe, and that is one that I thought was just kind of interesting, a little side.
Can I ask you, what is the Avenger MCU?
It was just I was referencing the kind of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, where in the topical guide my item was coming from. So in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the character of Loki that has been featured, and actually has been almost 12 films over the past 7 years, 12 films where Loki has been in some point, which of course is the god of mischief, and most recently he gears up for Thor Ragnarok, and in an article recently that he did with someone, I don't remember who, the actor Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
He revealed that he was very surprised that he's still here. He said he never expected when he started playing him that he would have lasted this long. He said, many times for at least the early days of Marvel, villains were, kind of a one and done. They were there, they died. They were there, they died, and really between all the Marvel, I guess, movies that have come over the past 7 years, it's really he and the character of Thanos that have really kind of been the only villains that have had so much longevity. And so anyway, he talked about playing Loki and how he's kind of a slippery one to play, and also hopefully been a slippery one to watch as a character from an audience perspective, that he's sometimes good and sometimes bad and a little mischievous through the way, and his motives kind of change and his loyalties kind of change. And so he says over the past 6 or 7 years, he's been just trying to find out, what exactly this character of Loki really wants. So
let me ask you something. Did the article say 12 Marvel movies or 12 Marvel movies that Tom Hiddleston has been in? 'Cause that sounds way too many.
12 movies since introducing Tom Hiddleston as Loki in the original Thor.
Oh,
movie. Yep.
Okay. That makes more sense. So they're saying that since he came out in the original Thor movie, there's been 12 Marvel movies since then, and his character's still around. I thought you were saying like he's been in 12 movies. I was like, okay, the 3 Thor movies, including Ragnarok, the 2 Avengers movies make 5, and then you've got 2 upcoming Avengers movies. I'm like, that would make 7. So, but of course you meant 12 Marvel movies total have come out since he was introduced in Thor, which makes more sense. Okay. Sorry, my math was just way off, and I was mentally trying to do some.
Well, you got to carry the one. You got to,
carry the one.
The decimal point.
I always forget that.
The decimal points always get you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he, he just has enjoyed playing him and looks to continue playing one of the most interesting villains around in the Marvel.
He does play
universe.
Loki really, really, really well. I must admit.
Does, yeah.
I think he's perfectly cast. He plays it just brilliantly, and because he's the trickster god. Like, you always kind of want to see him show up because you're like, what is he going to do? And like I told you, I read a book by Neil Gaiman called Norse Mythology, and they talked about a lot of this. And it was like every single time Loki showed up in one of the stories, like he was always getting Thor into some sort of trouble, or tricking Odin, or doing all these things. And he really is a driving, motivating character for the drama and the action that takes place.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel about him in the MCU as well. So I like it.
Very true.
I like it a lot.
True.
Okay, Steve. Have I reminded you that this Friday will be September 29th? A glorious day when the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Mini is going to arrive in stores. Now, I did not get a pre-order. We've talked about that. The old spammers and scammers going ahead and using some trickery of the interwebs to secure the pre-orders. But I'm currently looking to see if there's going to be a midnight opening anywhere near me, or if I'm going to have to go stand in line and miss a little bit of work. But I am determined to get one on Friday and to not miss out. And then when they re-release the NES next year, I'm going to do the same thing. So I just want to say that this podcast is going to release on Thursday. The next day will be Friday when it comes out. You may be listening to this today on Thursday, or you may be listening to this while you're standing in line on Friday for a SNES. I wish every one of our super friends that are going to try to grab one of these the best of luck. I hope that you find one. And if you don't, if you need a shoulder to cry on, you can always come here to us because I can sympathize.
There you go.
Just saying.
There you go.
Just saying.
Well, we all hope that you're able to,
relive my childhood for $80.
Oh, I was just going to say, elbow your way in line in front of small children and old people. So good luck with that.
I'll do what I have to do, Steve. You know me.
I'll do what I have to do. Last thing that I had, at least, was just a kind of an oddity, but one that I thought I'd bring up just briefly, which is that, I was a marketing major in college, and we often studied about kind of cross marketing and we've talked about this before in the podcast, where, Star Wars and the release of a new movie like Rogue One, cross markets with Nissan, and the Nissan Rogue suddenly becomes the Rogue One, and then they have, a special edition Star Wars Stormtrooper edition where you get a helmet. Anyway, all of this kind of cross fertilization of different brands and different products. And so, while that might be a far stretch, you're buying a car, you get a helmet, and yada, yada, yada. I thought that this next thing that I want to talk about was even a farther stretch.
Okay. You have my attention.
That Sonic the Hedgehog, the cuddly blue hedgehog that's known for rolling about and running fast, is teaming up with none other than Hooters. Yes. What? Hooters.
You mean the establishment that serves horrible food and has an owl theme?
Yes, one and the same. One that I believe, don't you have a frequent... Anyway. And so, this October, as reported by the 4Gamer, the Sonic Forces, I guess, promotional tie-up with Hooters restaurants in Tokyo will be unveiled. And I kind of thought, why? I didn't really understand. Usually there's some kind of synergies or there's some kind of connection that you can make. And the only thing that I could connect this to is that both are things of the 90s that are on their way out.
Is this only in Japan, or is this coming everywhere?
I read that it was really revealed at a Tokyo game show that they'd be collaborating forces in this promotion. But again, I don't know if this is going global.
Okay, so here's the thing. If this is only in Japan, this totally makes sense because they do some weird stuff when it comes to like marketing and gaming.
Right.
And, like just random, like I remember there's this video that I watched. It was this Japanese game show where like these like 5 men like basically stood on these like little wooden blocks, and there was this big like mousetrap contraption on the ground with like a big rod with like a little leather strap on the end of it, and they would have to like stand on these little blocks with their kind of like legs spread apart a little bit, and they'd have to like repeat like some sort of tongue twister as fast as they could. And if they got anything wrong, the little mousetrap lever would spring, that rod would flip up, and the little leather strap would basically hit him in the nuts. And you'd watch a Japanese man fall to the ground in pain. And like the last guy in line was watching all these guys just getting, hit in the nuts because they couldn't do it. And he's like trying to like run away and whatnot. And I'm like, and I just sat there and went, this is actually a game show that's being shown on television over there. And they find this entertaining. So if this is Japan only and Hooters and Sonic are teaming up, makes total sense to me. I'm not even going to question it. That seems tame. But if it's something that's going worldwide, that seems a little weird because in the Americas, we do some dumb stuff, but in
the Americas, are you looping in South America to this when you're referring to us as the plural Americas?
Sure, us in the Americas.
Us in Chile. I don't know. I don't know if this is going worldwide or not, but I thought it kind of odd. And again, I agree with you that over in the in the Far East, they do some funky stuff, man. I remember, we got a TV early in our married life, and we plugged it in this apartment we lived in out in California. And the first thing was that came out was one of these game shows. It became like our ritual. We would come home every night and watch these Japanese reruns of game shows. And one was like they had to run up this mountain, and this huge boulder-style ball would come down and would literally pummel them. Now, it obviously wasn't a real boulder made of stone, but it was not a foam ball either, man. This thing would like knock these poor people down. And this other one, they had to ride a giant teacup down this hill, and it would usually only make it like halfway down before it would like flip over, and then it would and it looked really painful. Not just like, oh, that was fun.
Are you talking about the Most Extreme Elimination show?
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Because there used to be a show.
Brutal, though.
There was a show that they brought over here to the U.S. It was brought off. There was a game show in Japan called like Tadashi's Castle or Takeshi's Castle or something like that. But they actually took that game show over here and they called it Most Extreme Elimination Challenge or something like that. Yeah, and they'd have
like the voiceover announcers.
And they'd have voiceovers and they'd make it like, comedic. I loved that show in college. It just drove me up the wall with laughter. Like I loved watching it where they'd like try to like run through, like they'd have like these 3 doors and like 2 of them were paper, but one of them was brick. And you'd watch these guys just like run into a brick wall and you're like, why? but it's a Japanese game show. Don't ask that question.
What's so funny though is it played well in Japan, and then we loved it as well here. It's just, yeah. Are we any better than they? Yes.
I don't think it's a matter of better. It's just a interest in
it's a different culture.
Taste. Different culture, different tastes. But anyway, I'm all tapped out on Rebel Intelligence. Do you have anything else, or was that your last thing?
Tapped out, man. I am tapped out.
Tapped out. Okay. Well, let's move on. Steve, last week we had an interesting conversation that got into, stuntmen and actors that do their own stunts. And then, of course, we followed it up with a completely random question of the week. What is your favorite roadside attraction or weirdest roadside attraction you've ever seen? We kind of took a little left turn right at the end of the podcast and got into something else, and that was our question. And then here's the rub. I got really, really busy this weekend, and I didn't put it out till late, so we only have a few responses. And we'll talk about why I didn't get it out here in just a second. So let's jump over to Twitter, shall we? The Geeky Nerd at dspin67 says, south of the... So this is, remember, favorite roadside or weirdest roadside attraction. It says, south of the border, at the North and South Carolina border. Also a fireworks store in Alabama. Boiled peanut stand in Mississippi.
Boiled peanuts are so good.
Really?
You've never had them before? They are so good, yeah.
I'll never eat boiled peanuts. They come wet
in a paper bag, and they taste like French fries. They're so good.
Really? See, I'll never eat them. Because I die. Because I'm allergic.
Then you'll never live.
Well, if eating boiled peanuts means I live, but then I immediately have to die after that, I'm okay just existing.
Isn't that a double negative? I can't keep track. All right.
I don't know. Let's jump over to the old Gmail, shall we? Peter Christensen says, Dear Nerds, fast follow-up. Jackie Chan in Rumble in the Bronx didn't just break his leg, he broke it jumping onto a hovercraft. True?
Oh, that's right.
True.
Yes. Hovercraft. I forgot that, yes.
Tom
Which makes
Cruise
it all the more cool.
Also filmed his own volleyball scenes in Top Gun, which... I think that's just more funny than anything because, I don't remember him. And you know what? Didn't he have a spike? Didn't he spike the ball in Top Gun?
As a male of only 4'7" that's pretty good.
I know. I was like, he spiked the ball after he jumped off the 8-foot tall ladder? Okay. He says, in The Two Towers, when Aragorn finds the pile of slaughtered orcs, he kicks a severed head and then screams and falls to his knees. He actually broke his toes, which is why his scream of pain sounds so convincing. That's good to know. Now I'm going to have to look for that. He says, question of the week. He says, not that offbeat, but on I-4 between Tampa and Orlando, there's an aviation museum called Fantasy of Flight. There was an airplane crashed nose first right next to the interstate with a person dangling by ropes from a door by the tail that has been recently removed after protests by airplane crash survivors. Thanks for the show, Peter. Yeah, by the way, sorry about that, Peter. I know I can English and I can read sometimes, but apparently...
you can English and you can read?
I can read. I can English. I got them skills.
On a small side note, we talked about this stuntman thing last week, and I was running on the treadmill sometime this week. I've gotten back into my running schedule, and actually the movie American Made that's coming out starring Tom Cruise actually had two or three pilots that were actually died in the filming of that back in 2015, and the families of those are actually suing the producers of American Made, saying that Tom Cruise and the producer just did all of these unnecessary takes, and they're like, no, let's do it again. And there were emails that went back and forth saying this is crazy. I've never seen this before. They're calling for reshoots on the spot, on the fly. Production's going days past schedule and all this. And anyway, yeah. So 2 pilots were killed during the filming. So it happens.
Well, it's sad that people died, and I guess we'll just have to wait to see what happens with the litigation, I guess, to find out because you know what I'm saying? When people die in these sort of things, and unless, you have it on film and like, detailed notes, it's always kind of hard to figure out like what exactly happened to the general public, right?
Well, and they didn't name Tom Cruise in the actual lawsuit. They just said, that they just said there was some negligence by Doug Liman, the producer, the director, and Tom Cruise, the star. So, but they weren't actually named officially in the lawsuit.
Well, let's pull that back from the death and destruction you brought us to for our last response. Over on Facebook, Caleb Albert says, I don't travel a ton, so I've seen very few attractions. The only one I can think of is Goblin Valley, which is super cool. My wife, though, she's been to that weird museum that displayed bodies. I think it was called Body World at the Leonardo in Salt Lake City. That exhibit had real people who donated their bodies to be put in a museum where they position the body doing everyday activities like cooking or playing football or something along those lines. But the weird part is the skin on the people had been removed, so you see all of their muscles. My wife also said that they had an R-rated area that was kind of disturbing. Wish I had a better story, but I lead a very simple life and not too adventurous.
They had an R-rated area?
I guess. I mean, I didn't go to it, but I mean, you've seen this. I mean,
I went to it. Yeah, I went to Body Works.
Yeah, I've never been to it. Just it's not something that really interests me. But obviously, it's a thing. I mean, it exists. So he does say, P.S. I have heard that the first official Avengers Infinity War trailer, I'm going to say official trailer, is going to be released on the 29th of this month. Just making sure your earlier offer still stands. Been waiting a long time to talk about this since I had my comment from a while ago about it was declined from being read. Haha. Can't wait for the new episode. Excited to hear about Comic-Con. So, Caleb, our offer does still stand. As soon as the first official trailer drops, we want you to come on the podcast. We want you to talk about it with us and join us for that episode. So you are still welcome and invited.
Absolutely.
So anyway, Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers. We really do enjoy talking with you and interacting. I had a chance today to talk to a couple people online, and a good buddy, Matt, he goes by Arctic Warlocks on Twitter, was saying, he's just really, really busy, but he listens to the podcast, doesn't always get a chance to interact with us on Twitter or Facebook. And so I know that, not everyone can at all times, but we do appreciate it. We have a lot of fun talking with everyone. Steve, we got Super Friends. We got Super Friends helping us find more Super Friends. But how are they doing that? How does that actually happen?
Well, there's a complex algorithm where you have to carry the one. I'm not going to get into it. It's over your head. Gotcha. No, they can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the largest ball of twine located in Wichita, Kansas.
Ah, very nice. Have you been to the Ball of Twine?
It's on our list, but not yet. Not yet.
Bucket list. I got you.
Number one on the bucket list.
We appreciate that. Something else, guys, if you do listen to this podcast and you want to make sure that when we do release it on Thursday mornings, it gets loaded up into your phone or your iPad or whatever you may have, hit that subscribe button. It'll then automatically just download it for you, and you'll be good to go every Thursday morning. You won't have to hunt and peck and try to figure out where we've gone, because we're always here for you. But just hit that subscribe button and be done with it.
Hit it.
So, Steve, Caleb Albers hinted at this. I didn't tell you about something that happened, obviously, this last week, because it would be a big conversation. So I thought we'd kind of talk about it now. Last weekend, my wife Brita and I went to Salt Lake City Comic-Con. And we went to Salt Lake Comic-Con. It's a 3-day event, and we got tickets, and we went, and we had a fantastic freaking time. It was a ton of fun, just a lot of good things going on. And I thought that since I've got a lot of this that I'd like to talk about, and I think you'd be interested and other Super Friends would be interested, I'd like to talk about that, but I'd also like to maybe frame it in the terms of, if you've never been to a Comic-Con or a con event or a fan-friendly event like this, like what to expect, what to know going into it, what to be prepared for. Because there's a lot of people that go to these things for the first time, and they're maybe not really sure as to what they're doing or what they should be doing or how they should be getting the most out of their experience. And
so kind of like a Comic-Con 101 or a Comic-Con etiquette.
Yeah, like a primer for like, here's what you do to go to a comic book convention, a Comic-Con, a fan experience, an E3, a gaming convention, something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. So first of all, let's give a shout out to Brita, man. What a good wife. Going with you to this thing,
right?
That's pretty freaking awesome.
I did marry up. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I married up.
Way to support your husband in getting his nerd on. That's awesome.
Well, she's a big part of it too. So I mean, it's not like she's just there like, ho hum, I guess I'll go along and be there for my husband. No, she wants to go to this every single year.
That is even cooler, man. Even cooler. Kudos to Brita.
Absolutely.
So you went to the Comic-Con, Salt Lake, 3 days. I guess first question is you obviously chose Salt Lake because it was geographically proximate to where you were.
Yeah, absolutely. Located. It's close to me.
But do people usually choose a Comic-Con based on location or based on stars that they're going to be there, or is there some way?
I think it's probably a mix of both. I'd say probably 90% to 95% of the people that go to a convention like this are going to go based on proximity.
Okay.
Obviously, I chose to go to Salt Lake Comic-Con based on proximity, but there will be people that will travel in order to, maybe they want to meet a special, guest, and they're hoping to meet them this year to get them to sign something, and they know that they're only going to appear in Denver and Salt Lake and Las Vegas and Los Angeles, and they're not going to be anywhere in the Boston area, and they live in Boston. So, they may schedule a flight to go to one of these conventions to try to meet said celebrity or author or artist or whatever.
Okay.
So we definitely went because it's convenient. I mean, it's only about 20-25 minutes south of us. So it's close.
And are there Comic-Cons, would you say, in every large metropolitan area? I mean, is it like Chicago and Denver and Atlanta and Miami?
I know Chicago has one. San Diego obviously has the biggest Comic-Con International. You got them in Vegas, and I mean they'll have one in Denver and Seattle and maybe Portland and definitely Boston and New York, and all big cities typically will get some sort of fan convention or comic convention or something along those lines. Now, I say comic convention because the term Comic-Con has become really ubiquitous. It's used by pretty much everyone. But it was born out of years ago. It was a comic book convention. People would get together and they would, buy and sell and trade comic books, and they would get together to talk about comics. But over the years, it has expanded to be so much more. It includes, movies. It includes television. It includes comics. It includes art. It includes authors. It's more of a nerd and pop culture extravaganza, but it still uses the term Comic-Con because that's kind of where it was born from.
Okay. And just for everyone's knowledge, obviously, like Spencer said, the San Diego Comic-Con is kind of the mecca of Comic-Cons. That's right. That's the largest. That's the most, frequented by, stars, I imagine. So
that's where every summer, a lot of new big movies get announced and their trailers get released. Because it is such a big, huge event for fans and for the media as well, because it's kind of become an opportunity to dump a whole bunch of information. And it's great for movie studios and television studios because you've got a lot of fans and an excited fan base. And so if it gets a good reaction at Comic-Con, that it's going to be accepted by kind of a built-in fan base. And so movies and TV shows and whatnot, they want to gauge that sort of interaction with the rabid fan base.
Yeah, so it's almost like kind of like a market research study that companies do, except in a large scale kind of macro petri dish.
Absolutely.
Now there is a cost; these are not free events to go to. Is that right?
Correct. So Brita and I bought our tickets probably middle of the summer, and the prices vary. So and I say that, and you hear that prices may vary, but it's interesting. So like Salt Lake Comic-Con, they'll do a thing where if you get your tickets before Memorial Day, for the upcoming Comic-Con and you'd gone to a previous Comic-Con, like they offer you a steeper discount as kind of like a loyalty for coming back again. But then once you pass kind of like the Labor Day, Memorial Day, once you pass the Memorial Day at the end of May, then the ticket prices start rising. There's ticket prices for individual days, so you could just go only on Thursday and buy a single day ticket. You could buy a multi-pass ticket, which gets you in for all 3 days. You can buy the gold multi-day ticket, which gives you some added perks, and then you could get the VIP multi-day package, which gives you all of the perks. And so prices are gonna vary in different. Breed and I got the gold package this year, and we did not get ours before Memorial Day. It was after. And so I want to say we paid $160 for both of them. So it's like $80 for the 3-day pass for an individual. But if you waited till later, it would have been higher. And obviously the VIP one was higher than that. But if you're going to go to a comic,
did you get certain?
Go ahead.
Sorry, did you get certain perks with that? Then I didn't catch that.
Yes. So with just like a normal day pass or a multi-day pass, it basically just gives you admittance into the vendor floor and into the panels, into the artist alley and into celebrity row. But basically, you're going to have to wait in line for everything. Anything you want to do, you're going to have to wait in line if you're just like a multi-day pass or a single-day pass holder. If you get the gold package, this is my experience with Comic-Con, Salt Lake Comic-Con, which I've gone a few times, but it'll be similar to most cons around the nation. The gold package, or whatever their tier they call it, but here it's gold. It gives you early access to some of the panels. It allows you to get early access to the vendor floor. They let like the gold and the VIP get access to the vendor floor like an hour earlier than everyone else. Which is nice because if you're going to get celebrities to autograph stuff, you can run over and get in those lines much, much earlier than the general public. So you can guarantee that you will actually get that said autograph or picture or whatever. And then there's the VIP package, and the VIP package basically lets you to the front of the line for everything. So celebrity autographs and pictures, front of the line to the panels, front of the line to entry into the Comic-Con. It's more money, but if you're trying to get a lot of signatures, autographs, pictures with celebrities, it's actually really, really a good deal because that will allow you to make sure you can get as many of those as you want, or get into the panels and get better seats. So it's like a fast pass to get to some of these things. Yes,
to get in front.
Yes, it's similar to that.
And now let me ask you this: so if you were to get, let's say, the VIP or the gold, you get in first, you get autographs. Do those autographs cost additional money to get autographs and photos?
Yes. If you're going to go to a Comic-Con and you're going to meet someone, like, so for instance, this year, we don't always go and get a whole bunch of celebrity autographs, but usually it'll be one or two, someone we're really excited to meet. We wanted to meet Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton is a self-professed nerd and into pop culture. I mean, obviously he was Wesley Crusher on Star Trek: The Next Generation, but he also runs a website, Geek and Sundry, with Felicia Day, and he does a web series called Tabletop where they play, board games with other celebrities. He's been on doing podcasts and plays Dungeons and Dragons. He's into this kind of stuff. Some people still know him from his acting in movies as a child, Stand By Me and such, or, being on Big Bang Theory as kind of like, as himself as Will Wheaton, but kind of like Sheldon's nemesis / enemy / frenemy type.
Right. But he's kind of transcended that. I feel like Will Wheaton has kind of transcended just the Wesley Crusher actor.
Yes, absolutely. So we wanted to meet him, and the cost was $50 if you wanted to get him to autograph something. Now, depending on how you look at that, that could be really expensive or not that expensive at all, depending on where you're at, financially. We had the money that we could do that. We had a board game of Settlers of Catan, except it's the Star Trek version of Settlers of Catan, which is a lot of fun. And Will Wheaton says that he believes it's the best version of Catan. It's the only one he plays anymore because he really does love it. And so we thought we'd have him autograph that. And, I've actually played a lot more board games after watching his show Tabletop. So here's the nice thing about this, right? Some celebrities, you may just pay your $50 or $40 or whatever it is, and they'll just sign it and you'll move on. Will Wheaton talked to me for almost like 5 minutes. And, there's a lot of other people in line behind me. And, I told him that, I've enjoyed his work, and I thanked him for his time to come. And he asked, kind of like what we're doing. And we talked about the Catan game. And I told him, I said,
you better drop the podcast.
I did.
You dang well better.
I said, I want you to know that you're one of my inspirations for doing something that I love. I said, I know you always say that, you want to do projects that you enjoy and things you love. That's why you started Tabletop. That's why, you do D&D and you reoccurring guests in some podcasts. I said, I started a podcast with my best friend and who lives in Chicago. And he looked at me and he's like, isn't that great? He's like, isn't that just an awesome opportunity to get to talk to your friends? He's like, I love that. I can be anywhere in the world and I can still like once a week talk to my friends and be able to, share an experience with them, even though I'm not there. And I said, that's exactly what it is. I said, I talked to my best friend in Chicago and we get to talk once a week and we just love it. And it's a great time. And so like we talked for...
And then he said, I will listen to your podcast, right?
I didn't ask him that because I didn't want to pressure the man. But here's the thing.
Hey, Will, if you're listening, what's up?
Yeah,
thanks for listening.
Yeah, listen, Will Wheaton, was an amazing person. He was super nice to take time to do that. But then he took time to like talk to every single individual that he signed something for. And in some cases like mine, he took more than just like 30 seconds. He took almost 5 minutes, and he talked to some other people in front of us in line for a few minutes as well. And I really appreciated that. So that's not always going to be everyone's experience when they go to a con, that every celebrity is going to do that. But I could tell, like talking to some of the security people and the volunteers at Salt Lake Comic Con, that they knew some of the celebrities that took time and made those kind of special moments for the fans. Because I think certain celebrities get that. They're like, yes, my time is valuable to me, but I go to these things and I get to interact with the fans and spend time with them. It makes a difference to them because they really appreciate what I do. And so it was really cool. Like, it was a great experience. He was the only celebrity that I planned to try to get an autograph from and meet. As far as like
and he genuinely,
celebrities.
That's an awesome story. He genuinely seems like a good person, a good guy, nice guy. So that cost additional money aside from entry fee.
Yeah. So there's additional money there. If you're going to bring food with you, you can, at least at Salt Lake, you can. But if not, they have vendors that'll sell food. So be prepared to pay like airport prices for food. You'll pay like $10 for a sandwich that you could make at home for maybe like $1. Let's see what else. I paid for parking.
Okay. I want to say one thing though about the signature and the payment for that. On its face, one could say, well, gosh, $50, I already paid to get in here, and $50 for a signature, yada, yada, yada. But again, you do have to understand that this is this person's livelihood. Like,
right.
The character that they play, or the podcast that they do, or whatever, or the brand that they have built from themselves is their livelihood. So, you got to respect that.
Right.
I respect that.
Right. So. And so if you pay to do that, you can also pay to have photo ops. So like a few years back ago at the first Salt Lake Comic Con, Brita and I we met Stan Lee. And Stan Lee,
about that,
Stan Lee, the creator of, gosh, how many Fantastic Four and Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man and, X-Men and like all these wonderful Marvel titles, right? But I got to meet Stan Lee, but like we did a photo op with him, and it was basically like Stan Lee sits in a chair, you walk in, they snap a photo, and you walk out. And they just, try to get through as many people as they can. And I did a photo op with Stan Lee, Brita and I did. I was like, I'm not just going to walk in there, I'm going to say something. And I walked in, and And I said, Stan, it's an honor to meet you. And I stuck my hand out, and he grabbed my hand and shook my hand and says, "It's an honor to be met." And, and then a big, huge smile on his face, and he kind of laughed, and I laughed. And he's like, oh, he's like, he was just like, he's like, thanks. I really do appreciate that. He's like, all right, let's take this picture. And then they snapped the picture. I said, thanks, Stan. I appreciate your time. He's like, no, thank you. I walked out. It wasn't a very long conversation. I'm just going to be honest, but I freaking had a conversation with Stan Lee.
Right.
How many people can say that? More than just me, obviously, but
right.
That number is still going to be small as far as, fans of comics and Marvel movies and whatnot. So that costs money, though.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask as well. So this is one thing that I think somebody who I have not gone to a Comic-Con, and maybe a lot of our listeners haven't, but I would imagine that it could be tempting to, when you meet one of your one of your fan crushes or whatever, one of your heroes or whatever else, that you would feel, of course, this intimate connection that you felt with their character. You could go up and express that, whereas the actor is not the character.
Right,
they
exactly.
are the actor, and they might not feel that same immediate connection that you've felt for the last 20 years of your life.
So a lot of people would say to Will Wheaton, and I heard this because I was in the panel, him and Gates McFadden, who plays Dr. Beverly Crusher on The Next Generation. They did a panel together, and a lot of people, when they would ask their question in the panel, they would say, Will, I grew up with you, because obviously he was growing up while he was on the show, and they were at that same age. And I get that. And that he gets that too, because he'd even said that he understands how people feel that way. But for us, we had that person, in our home every day at 4:00 in the afternoon, right?
Right.
But for them, they filmed this on a soundstage, and they
like,
they
I
said
don't know you.
well, right, but they said their lines, and it's I think a lot of celebrities have an understanding that for fans, people that watch the show that had them in their homes every day, that there's an emotional connection. There's some sort of connection there that they have, and I think the celebrities appreciate that and can understand from a humanistic standpoint how people feel. But I think here's the thing I always think about. Anytime I'm going to meet someone, and I've met a few celebrities. I met Stan Lee, I met Will Wheaton, I met Hulk Hogan, I met Alan Tudyk. Brita got to meet John Barrowman. I met Jimmy the Heart, the Mouth of the South. I met Lou Ferrigno.
Nice. You met Lou Ferrigno?
I met the Incredible Freaking Hulk. You bet I did.
Dang.
Lou Ferrigno. I have a picture with him. I will post that on the old social media for the podcast. It's been a while, but
all right.
Just remind me, because I'll forget, because it's late. But I will post that out there. Here's the thing to take away. If you're going to go to a convention and you're going to meet someone you admire, like I met Brandon Sanderson, who writes the Stormlight Archive books, the Mistborn books, wrote the last 3 books of the Wheel of Time series. I met him this con, and I actually had him autograph 2 books for me. Don't gush, don't fanboy or fangirl out too hard. You're going to make it awkward. Don't be like, oh gosh, I just love you. Ah! Because you're going to make it awkward. And trust me, you will regret what you said if you do that. You're like, why did I tell him I have diarrhea of the mouth? He obviously could tell that. Why did I say diarrhea? I was in the presence of, Jamie Foxx. Why did I do that? No, don't do that. I take the approach, I thank them for their time in coming to an event like that. When I met Will Wheaton, I said, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come and do this. I really appreciate that. Because I know on a human side, that's going to be reciprocated. They're going to feel, okay, great. This is someone, someone who's understanding the value of my time. I will also say, I really admire your work. I really, if it's an author, I really admire your writing. Thank you so much. Or maybe something like, I really like the way you get this type of a character. You write that really well. Thank you. Or thank you for, putting into words or putting on film, such an emotional performance, something that you're letting them, without, taking 10 minutes to explain, that you're acknowledging that you appreciate their work. I think that's more more of an appropriate way to talk to someone. Because if you just fanboy or fangirl out when you're standing there talking to someone who you admire but you don't know, to them it could be awkward, and it's just like, oh, thanks, okay, haha, let's move this along, creepo. You don't want to do that. But if you take the time just to thank them or tell them you really appreciate what they do and all their hard work they put into it, I think on a human level, that is going to resonate with them more. You're going to walk away like not being mortified by just, saying, why did I tell him I have a liver condition? Why? You're not going to have those moments.
I'm taking notes here, Spence. So don't be a creeper.
Don't be a creeper.
Okay. So no, I think that's a good point for anything. I mean, whether
sure.
It's, you're talking to your spouse, you're talking to a coworker, to give specific compliments or specific praise. I really enjoyed how you developed this character in this thing, or I really,
right.
something specific that they can take away and be like, he really does appreciate my time here. He really did appreciate this specific thing. It wasn't just, oh, Will Wheaton, you're great. Yeah. You're my density. Like, not some weird, just kind of fluffy, flowery, doesn't really mean anything kind of compliment. So that's great.
Right.
So one thing I wanted to get to, and I think that it's been on all the listeners' minds, and I'm just going to talk about the proverbial elephant in the room. Let's talk about cosplay.
Okay.
So I read somewhere in a 101 Comic-Con etiquette website that said cosplay is not consent. Talk about that.
So here's the thing: when you go to an event like this, lots and lots and lots of people are going to dress up as their favorite character from an anime or from a comic book or from a movie or from a TV show, right? Or even book characters. People are going to dress up. People are going to be in costumes you're going to recognize. People are going to be in costumes you don't recognize. The thing is this, is if you admire someone's cosplay, their costume they put time and effort in and they built, I think it's appropriate to say, hey, that's a really great costume. I really like that costume. That totally is the best version of the Joker I've seen today. I think that's okay. I think it's okay saying, hey, I really like this, your cosplay, or I really like your costume. Do you mind if I get a picture with you? Is that okay? And asking someone, not just going up to someone and just like, putting your arm around that person and be like, hey, I'm just taking a picture. Just be cool. Just relax. No, don't do that. That's creepy. That's weird. And it's borderline like, sexual assault. Don't do that.
So to quote the Emperor's New Groove, no touchy. No touchy.
Yes. So, and here's the other thing. And this is where it gets really, really interesting, is that some people will cosplay as people who don't have as much clothing on as they probably normally do in their real life. I saw a guy cosplaying as He-Man, and he was wearing a little loincloth and like that little like battle chest thing with like the leather straps. And don't get me wrong, the guy was ripped and he looked like He-Man, but like he was working in a vendor booth on the vendor floor, and he was like trying to get like people to come in. He was trying to like kind of like put his arm around people and like try to like, like, hey, come on in here, take a look at this. And I was like, yeah, I don't want him putting his arm on me. I don't know this guy, and he's half naked. He's more than half naked actually, and it's a little weird. Or we'd run into females that were going. There's I don't know the name of this, but there's a video game character of this girl. She's a sniper. She's got this really, really long, tall sniper rifle. She's got red hair that's usually kind of like in a ponytail. But she's got really like knee-high, like black leather boots. And then she's basically wearing like a black bikini with like flames on the top half of the bikini. And it's a really popular cosplay. You'll see it a lot of places. But she's not wearing a lot of clothing. It would not be appropriate to just walk up to that person and put your arms around her or hands on her to expect a photo or go in for a hug. You would want to approach that situation very carefully. That would be a dangerous situation to do if not handled rightly. Hey, I really like your costume. Do you mind if I get a picture with you? And if they say yes, like, that would be great. stand next to the person, smile. If that person puts their arm around your shoulder and you want to reciprocate and put your arm around that person's shoulder, I think you're fine. But I wouldn't make that first move, not unless you know that person, or not unless you have, the go-ahead to do so, because cosplay is not consent. Just because someone's dressed up like He-Man and they're 3/4 of the way naked doesn't give me the right to go and, manhandle him. It just doesn't.
So really, the same, I guess, personal boundaries and etiquette that exist in the normal world don't suddenly vanish and dissipate when you walk into a convention center.
You got it, my friend. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. If you don't want to be groped, don't grope someone else. It's just common math and decency.
I read somewhere else, which first of all, like just finishing that, people obviously have dressed up and they spend a lot of time and effort. So asking for a picture, as I read in other websites, is totally fine. If they say yes, great. If they say no, no worries.
Yeah, just move on.
Calling them by character name, they love that. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, going back to the autographs and the photos, is that, and this is at least on, I think, Denver's Comic-Con. Guess who the most expensive autograph was of the entire Comic-Con there? And I will tell you, it is from the Harry Potter world.
Probably Hermione Granger.
James and Oliver Phelps, the Weasley twins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The most expensive. I don't know how much it was, but yeah.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Like Celebrity Row, you'll have, so all these celebrities that show up usually will sign autographs or take pictures or a combination of both, but they set their own prices. But like we had Rob Schneider, we had, like I said, Will Wheaton and Gates McFadden, Harry Dean Anderson, from the A-Team. There was...
Wait, Rob Schneider was there at Salt Lake?
Yeah. John and Joan Cusack were there. Stephen Amell from Arrow was there. And then, of course, the biggest name was Dick Van Dyke, was the kind of the big one, and Elijah Wood.
Wow.
Those were the two bigger, probably the two biggest names that were there. Michael Rooker was there. Just all sorts of people will show up to these events. So, you want to plan out if you want to meet certain people. But here's the thing we haven't kind of talked about. Most of these people will do panels. And what a panel is, it basically you gather in a big room and the author or the actor or the comic book artist along by himself or maybe with some other people will basically talk, and they'll talk about some of their experiences. Maybe there'll be a moderator moderating the discussion, maybe not. And then typically they'll take questions from the audience. And those are a lot of fun. Like panels can be a good time. Like Rob Schneider we went to the Dick Van Dyke panel, and then in between the Dick Van Dyke panel and the Will Wheaton Gates McFadden panel was Rob Schneider. And so if we just continued to sit in the grand ballroom, we got to hold our seats. So we ended up sitting through Rob Schneider, and Brita was a little hesitant because she's like, I hear his, comedy can be a little rough, and I don't know, but let me tell you.
What's he been in lately? Is that like, has he been in anything that's promoting, or is he just
he has a show on Netflix right now.
Does he? Okay.
I think it's called Home with Rob, or Rob at Home, maybe. I think maybe it's Rob at Home. Anyway, here's the thing. He was so much fun. Like, he just told stories of like being in Hollywood and like trying to work into getting into acting and working with Sylvester Stallone and mocking Sylvester Stallone and working with Christopher Walken on Saturday Night Live. And he talked about his daughter, who's a recording artist named Ella King, I guess. I don't know her. Brita knows her though. She's heard her songs. But he was a lot of fun, and like my wife wasn't really expecting that, and then it turned out really well, and she had a good time. So panels are really cool. They're a great way to kind of get off your feet if you've been standing for a long time, if you've been in a bunch of lines. And they've got panels for everything. Like there was panels on like, Back to the Future, and there was panels on comic books, and authors were doing panels on like, writing pitfalls and traps. And there was obviously the big name actors that had their panels like Michael Rooker and Dick Van Dyke and Rob Schneider and Will Wheaton and Gates McFadden. Jodie Benson, who's the voice of Ariel in the movies and the video games, she was there, and she had a panel, and she actually sang at it.
Little Mermaid?
You got it. Now, the problem was Brita and I couldn't stay that late because we had to get back to pick up the kids. So she had to miss that. And I know Brita was a little disappointed. But it's, typically these Comic Con conventions are like a 3-day event. And so you spend, if you go all 3 days, you can spend a lot of time and your back and your feet can start getting sore from standing. So panels are a great chance to sit down and get off your feet. Also wear good shoes and socks. I mean, I'm just saying, don't wear high heels if you don't have to. I personally don't.
Unless it goes with your cosplay.
Yeah, I personally don't wear them unless it goes with my cosplay, which Caleb Albers, I did not go as Jessica Rabbit. I know we talked about that a little bit, but I did not. I actually did not cosplay. Year. Yeah, maybe next year. So I'm trying to think what else, Steve, to tell you. It's a lot of fun. We just really had a lot of good times seeing other people's cosplays. Just a lot of things going on. We ran into some old friends, some people we know from our neighborhood. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of opportunities to take pictures, and you can tweet. One of the big events is sometime during the convention, usually on Friday or Saturday night, they'll actually have the cosplay contest where all the people that have dressed up will have a contest, and they'll be judged by a few judges, and they'll usually break them down to categories like, 10 and under and, teenagers and then adults. And typically, those winners can win cash or prizes. And so,
really?
Yeah, so that's a real big reason why a lot of people put time into that, because they're they want a shot at winning, the competition. So, the vendor floor, let's talk about that. So typically at any of these conventions, you got a big vendor floor. So basically booths get rented out by businesses and, comic book stores and artist alleys. So a bunch of artists will come and you just can walk around and you can see all the things that are being sold. So you could buy replica swords, and you could buy, Star Trek and Star Wars toys, and you can buy Funko Pops, and you can buy buttons and iPhone cases, and you can buy, we saw all sorts of things like 3D printers were there. Books and authors. Now, here's the thing. One of my favorite authors, Patrick Rothfuss, was scheduled to show up, and I think this is something we should mention too. He was scheduled to show up. So Thursday night, I raced down to get there because I had to work Thursday. I was only taking Friday off. And I get down there and I go to go into the convention, and I go to the room where his panel's going to be, and they said, "Hey, are you here for Patrick Rothfuss?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "His panel's canceled." I was like, "Oh man, that's a bummer." I was like, "I wonder why it's canceled." And they said they didn't know. So I went and I looked, and everything he was scheduled to do the entire weekend was gone. And so,
really?
Yeah, so I went on to his blog to figure out what had happened. And it turns out that his dad is really sick with stage 4 liver cancer, and they basically just found it or just, discovered it, and he doesn't have very long to live. So Patrick Rothfuss, this author that I love, made the choice to stay home and be with his dad because they're saying he may only have a few weeks, if that. Now, while cancellations do happen from time to time, people will cancel at the last minute. Typically, it's for something like this. They've got some big life event that's going on. And I know people can get really angry because they had their heart set on meeting someone. But I had my heart set on meeting Patrick Rothfuss. I was really, really worried about fanboying out and not being able to control myself because I really appreciate and love his books. But at the same time, when I heard that, and that was the reason why he canceled, I immediately didn't care about meeting him anymore that weekend. He was where he needed to be. I lost my father 15 years ago, this December, and if I had a chance, knowing if my dad had been sick, and I could spend a couple days with him or a week with him, and it meant I had to put my other plans on hold, I would do that in a heartbeat. So I don't have any ill will towards Patrick Rothfuss for canceling. I'm glad he's able to spend that time. And so I think going into a convention, if you're going to go, and this is, Comic-Con 101, be prepared that you may have your heart set on meeting a certain celebrity that was slated to be there, but anyone could cancel at the last minute for whatever reasons they may have. And just remember that these are real people just like you and me, and they could have horrible stuff like, losing a parent going on, or they could have a surprise wedding that comes up at the last minute, or something, that happens, and maybe they're in the middle of shooting a movie and they had this weekend, but then the movie, they scheduled reshoots and they're contractually tied to be there, and so they have to cancel their appearances. I think it's good for people to remember that things like that could happen and be prepared if that does happen. And don't take it personal. Just realize, they've got other stuff going on in their lives. Roll with the punches, make the best of it, and have a good time and still do the other things you want to do.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly.
So, but anyway.
Well, very cool.
Great chance. Great chance. Now, here's the thing. You and I have talked about this. Like, we're trying to plan taking the Fortress of Nerditude on the road and going to San Diego Comic-Con, because that's the Mecca. That's the granddaddy. Like, we'd like to do that. So like now you kind of have an idea of like what to expect when we go to one of these things.
Yeah, and any listeners who've never been before and thinking about going, I think it's at least a baseline 101 for what to expect and how to prepare and how to have a great time.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: like in the future coming up, like we're gonna try to go to Salt Lake or San Diego Comic-Con. I'm definitely gonna go back to Salt Lake Comic-Con again. Like if I can get Steve to come out and join me, I'd love you to come out and spend the weekend with me and do that. But I think the other thing is like go with friends, go with people that appreciate it, because pretty much it's a 3-day nerd and pop culture extravaganza, and you get to celebrate things that you love with other people who love the same stuff. So there's a lot of like really good positive vibes. Like everyone's having a good time. Everyone's making the best of everything because, you know, come Monday morning, you got to go back to your normal 8 to 5 job and do your normal activities. And you're not surrounded by a bunch of people that also share your love of, you know, manga or anime or, you know, Rob Schneider or whatever it may be that's your thing. So you want to make the most of that. But anytime in the future, Steve, I think that we go anywhere, I think we definitely want to let, you know, our super friends know. And so if any of our super friends are going to be at the same convention or walking around, you know, come up and say hi and, you know, hang out with us for a little bit and, you know, just have a chance to kind of, you know, get together and do that. Because that sort of stuff is fun. Like when you see people, you know, and you can talk to people. Like I just make friends everywhere I go when I'm at these things. I talk to people on the line in front of me, behind me, get to know them because I'm like, I'm going to be standing next to this person for the next 2 hours potentially. Why not get to know this guy? Like we talked to this guy in front of us in line for, Will Wheaton, and like he home brews his own beer. And I guess Will Wheaton used to do that for a while, and he used Will Wheaton's recipe. And so that's what he was going to get Will Wheaton to sign. And like, I just talked to this guy and he was telling me about his wife and his kid. And, you know, it was a Comic-Con friend that I made. I mean, I'll probably not bump into him again, except maybe next year at Salt Lake Comic-Con. But you know what I'm saying? Like, right. Just make the best of it. You know, have a great time. You know, these sort of events are, you get out of it what you put into it. I'll just put it that way.
Yep. Well, very cool. Well, thank you, Spence, for sharing your experience with us and some of your Comic-Con etiquette knowledge. Yes. And again, no touchy. Just remember that, guys.
No touchy.
Anyway, well, very cool. Well, thank you. I hope everyone's enjoyed as much as I have, and we cannot wait to see some of the pictures of Lou Ferrigno, Stan Lee, and others that you'll post to the...
I will post those from previous, but all this last weekend, I was tweeting out photos of me with taking pictures with people or taking pictures with, objects. Like there was, a statue of Deadpool and one of Azog the Defiler, and like Breed and I took a picture. And so like over this weekend, if you're listening to us and you're on Twitter and you start seeing all these photos coming out, just one after another, that's why, because I was taking a lot of photos and and whatnot of the con.
Very cool.
So,
well, very cool. Well, very good. So, friends, we always enjoy being with you. It's been a great show, and we look forward to being with you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat schedule.
So, Steve, I was thinking before we sign off, I don't really know of a question that we could ask. So, I think this week we should let our super friends ask us questions, and next week we will answer their questions. How does that sound to you?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Nice. Well, from all of us at the Fortress of Nerditude, may the Force be with you. Always.